I told you to, like, think of the most vicious, targeted, legally fraught response to a breakup in modern history, you probably wouldn't think it a shimmering, upbeat disco pop song.
No, definitely not.
Right. You probably picture an acoustic guitar or, I don't know, somebody screaming into a microphone in the rain.
Yeah, that classic angst.
Exactly. But if you look at a beautifully constructed skyscraper from the street, all you see is this flawless, gleaming facade of glass and steel. It's perfect.
Just a mirror.
Right. It's impenetrable.
Yeah.
You just accept it as this monolithic achievement standing in the sun.
Well, yeah, because the surface is explicitly designed to reflect the light, to blind you to all the brutal engineering that actually keeps the structure standing.
That's a great way to put it.
It's supposed to feel effortless.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if you were to actually take a sledgehammer to that pristine drywall or like crawl into the basement with a flashlight, you wouldn't find polished glass down there.
No, you'd find a mess.
A total mess. You'd find a chaotic, tangled maze of raw wiring, heavy steel rebar, structural compromises, and maybe a foundation poured over an old, forgotten burial ground.
Which is usually how these things go.
Right. And suddenly the building isn't just a structure anymore. It's a messy, complicated, highly intentional story.
And that hidden infrastructure is usually far more fascinating than the reflective glass on the outside. I mean, we love the polished result, but the true nature of the thing lives in the messy mechanics of how it was built.
Yeah.
And critically, why it had to be built that way in the first place.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because today, for our deep dive, we're going to take a sledgehammer to the drywall of one of the most inescapable pop culture skyscrapers of our modern era.
Which is, of course, Miley Cyrus's massive hit, Flowers.
Yes. Because on the surface, it is this incredibly slick, perfect pop song.
It's pure gloss.
It is. But the second you look at the wiring underneath, this single track explodes into a massive conversation for you to wrap your head around. We're talking the literal architectural history of response songs, the cold, hard realities of copyright law, the deeply embedded psychology of human memory.
And believe it or not, evolutionary biology.
Right. The biology of how animals court each other in the wild.
It really is a masterclass in how a 3.5-minute piece of audio can serve as a cultural nexus point.
Absolutely.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Flowers isn't just a catchy tune that got stuck in your head while you were, at the grocery store buying cereal.
Though it definitely did do that.
Oh, it completely did. But it is a modern manifestation of some of our oldest human traditions regarding storytelling, autonomy, and biological survival.
And before we get into the biology, the sheer numbers back up just how hard this song hit the human psyche. I mean, Flowers was the lead single of her album Endless Summer Vacation, and it didn't just succeed, it utterly obliterated the landscape.
The metrics were staggering.
Totally wild. It became the fastest song to reach 100 million streams globally on Spotify.
Which is no small feat.
Not at all. And it sat as a non-consecutive #1 on the U.S. adult contemporary charts for a staggering 112 weeks.
Over 2 years.
Yeah, it completely shattered the previous record held by Maroon 5's Girls Like You.
Right.
So our mission for you today is to completely disassemble this song. We are going to look at the anatomy of Flowers, the brilliant lyrical flips, the intense legal battles over its sheet music, the hidden production secrets inside the studio.
And weave all of that into the actual science of why music permanently embeds itself into our memories.
Exactly. But to start, we have to look at the lyrics.
Yeah, because to really understand the mechanical impact of Flowers, you have to first understand the very specific, very pointed conversation it is having with the past.
It's not just talking to the listener.
No, this song doesn't exist in a vacuum. It operates as a direct narrative response to Bruno Mars's 2012 heartbreaking ballad, When I Was Your Man.
Which was huge in its own right.
Massive. And by constructing the song this way, Miley tapped into a very specific, very powerful lineage of musical history.
The lyrical parallels are honestly awe-inspiring when you lay them side by side. It's like the ultimate musical subtweet, but set to a multi-platinum disco beat.
That's exactly what it is, a subtweet.
Right. Let's walk through the exact flips because the precision is just stunning. Bruno Mars sings this lament, I should bought you flowers and held your hand.
He's dwelling entirely on his failures as a provider.
Exactly. Miley looks right at that specific lyric and flips the perspective to absolute autonomy. She says, I can buy myself flowers and I can hold my own hand.
It's a direct inversion of agency.
Yeah.
Where he is trapped in regret over what he failed to provide. She is asserting that she never required him to provide it in the first place. The narrative shifts from his failure to her self-sufficiency.
Right. And Bruno goes on to regret not taking his ex out, thinking he should have taken her to every party because all she wanted to do was dance.
And her response?
Miley's response is, I could take myself dancing. It's clean, it's targeted, it's surgical.
It is surgical, but it also taps into a profound academic concept known as semiotics.
Oh boy, here we go.
Semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and how we derive meaning from them. In semiotics, there is a crucial distinction between denotation and connotation.
Wait, hold on. You're bringing dense French philosophy into a Miley Cyrus disco track.
I am!
I mean, isn't it entirely possible she just liked the rhyme scheme of flowers and hours? Are we maybe over-intellectualizing a basic pop hook here?
We aren't, and here's why. The human brain processes cultural symbols long before it processes rhyme schemes.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about semiotics as the difference between what a raw camera lens sees and the cultural software running in your brain. Denotation is just the raw footage.
So what does that mean for a flower?
The denotation of buying a flower is simply the physical transaction of purchasing a plant with petals. Anyone from any culture can observe that action and agree on what is literally happening.
Okay, literal action. Money exchange for a plant. Got it.
But then you have connotation. This is the cultural software. The philosopher Roland Barthes described connotation as the second order meaning.
Second order meaning.
Right. This is where the ideology and the hidden cultural codes live. Depending on the context, handing someone a flower can connote passionate romance, deep mourning at a funeral, or a desperate apology.
I see where you're going.
What Miley does in Flowers is forcefully hijack the connotation.
Yes.
By taking the symbol of the flower, which Bruno Mars used to connote traditional romantic provision and male regret, and buying it for herself, she rewrites the cultural code.
The flower no longer symbolizes romantic love.
Exactly. It becomes a fierce symbol of self-reliance and independence. She reprogrammed the symbol.
She basically stole the cultural software and pushed a new update. That's brilliant.
It really is.
But I do have to ask, as a pushback, leaning this hard into personal drama and fan theories, is that a brilliant marketing tactic or a dangerous game? Because the lore surrounding how she deployed this reprogrammed symbol is just staggering.
It can be both dangerous and brilliant.
Because she didn't just release the song randomly. Flowers dropped on January 13th.
Right.
Now, for anyone who doesn't obsessively follow celebrity gossip, January 13th just happens to be the 33rd birthday of her ex-husband, actor Liam Hemsworth.
A very pointed date.
The internet collectively gasped. And it wasn't just the release date. There are visual and historical Easter eggs baked into the actual lyrics.
Oh, absolutely.
She sings, built a home and watched it burn. On a denotative level, sure, it's a metaphor for a ruined relationship.
Yeah.
But connotatively,
It's literal.
it's a literal historical reference to the couple's actual home in Malibu, which was tragically destroyed in the 2018 Woolsey fire.
The intertwining of massive public tragedy and intimate private grief is an incredibly potent mix.
Yeah, it really is.
It rewards the active listener. It turns the audience into detectives, which drives engagement and deepens the emotional resonance of the track far beyond a standard breakup song.
And the detective work got absolutely wild. I mean, in the music video, Miley is seen in this gold vintage dress doing this very specific grinding, almost aggressive dance move.
Yes, I remember that.
Fans immediately went to work and traced that exact physical motion back to a highly awkward red carpet interview from 2019 for Access Hollywood.
The side-by-side videos on TikTok were everywhere.
They were. Miley started grinding on Liam during the interview, and you can see him visibly uncomfortable, leaning away, telling her, "Sweetheart, don't do that, we're on the carpet."
A very public chastising.
Exactly. She took that moment of public rejection, of being told to diminish herself and act proper, and turned it into a victory dance in her own music video.
Reclaiming the narrative.
And the fans didn't stop at verified facts. We have to talk about the viral rumors, because they totally took over the internet.
They certainly did.
A Twitter account called @thepoptings spread a rumor that the beautiful villa where Miley filmed the Flowers music video was the exact same location where Hemsworth allegedly cheated on her with 14 different women.
Now, it is vital to note that this rumor is completely unverified.
Oh, totally unverified.
There is no factual basis confirming that location's history in their relationship. But from a sociological standpoint, the veracity of the rumor almost doesn't matter as much as its function within the fandom.
What do you mean?
The fans desperately wanted a villain, and they wanted a physical location to project that villainy onto. It became part of the song's mythological framework.
Right, they needed a stage for the drama.
Exactly. And while this level of intense internet sleuthing feels very modern, the tradition of the answer song, or the response song, is deeply rooted in musical history.
Not a new concept at all.
Not at all. As the podcast Switched on Pop expertly pointed out in their analysis, this is a time-honored tradition of artists talking back to each other.
Oh, like Woody Guthrie writing, "This land is your land," as a direct, frustrated response to Irving Berlin's God Bless America.
Perfect example.
Yeah, Guthrie felt Berlin's song was overly complacent and ignored the harsh realities of the Great Depression, so he wrote his own version to correct the record.
Precisely. We see it across every genre. Look at the history of hip-hop. Nicki Minaj's Anaconda is a massive cultural response to Sir Mix-a-Lot's Baby Got Back.
Oh, wow, yes.
She took a song that explicitly objectified women from the male gaze and flipped it into a powerful anthem of female sexual autonomy and financial dominance. Or consider the legendary 1980s hip-hop rivalry where Roxanne Shante dropped Roxanne's Revenge as a blistering response to UTFO's track Roxanne, Roxanne. The response song is a fundamental mechanism for an artist to reclaim the microphone and assert their own narrative.
But reclaiming the microphone is one thing that makes for incredible pop culture theater.
Yeah.
But reclaiming the actual sheet music is another entirely.
That it is.
And that takes us directly into the cold, hard, unromantic reality of the legal system. Because while the fans were obsessing over the emotional narrative and analyzing every frame of the music video, the lawyers were quietly looking at the copyright.
Lawyers always are.
Right. I was honestly so surprised when the news broke about the legal drama surrounding this track. You have this brilliant artistic response, but suddenly Miley Cyrus is being sued for copyright infringement in 2024.
It was a shock to many people.
Which raises a huge question. Where do we actually draw the line between a brilliant artistic homage and actual actionable theft?
I mean, you can't own a feeling, right?
You absolutely cannot own a feeling, nor can you copyright a vibe. But you can absolutely copyright a specific sequence of notes and a specific combination of musical elements, which is where the lawsuit comes into play.
So what's actually happening with this suit?
What's fascinating here is the precise nature of this legal challenge. In September 2024, a copyright lawsuit was filed against Miley Cyrus. But the plaintiff was not Bruno Mars.
Wait, which is wild. Bruno Mars's name is nowhere on this lawsuit. Nope.
If he was the one supposedly wronged, why isn't he suing?
Because modern music rights are incredibly complex financial instruments. The lawsuit was filed by Tempo Music Investments.
Okay, an investment firm.
Right. They are a music rights investment firm that acquired the catalog of Philip Lawrence.
And who is Philip Lawrence?
Lawrence is one of the 4 co-writers of When I Was Your Man, alongside Bruno Mars, Ari Levine, and Andrew Wyatt.
Got it.
Tempo Music alleges that Flowers intentionally copied the melody, harmony, and chorus of the 2012 hit, claiming the similarities are so striking that Flowers simply wouldn't exist without it.
Which, ironically, Miley would probably agree with conceptually.
Oh, thematically, yes.
I mean, the song is a narrative response to it. Of course it wouldn't exist without it. But legally, Miley's team fired back hard, didn't they?
They did. On November 20th, 2024, her lawyers filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit entirely. They categorically denied any copying.
Just a flat note.
A flat no. Their argument was that any similarities between the 2 tracks are just, quote, random, scattered, unprotected ideas and musical building blocks.
Musical building block.
Yes. They also hit them on a serious legal technicality, arguing that Tempo Music lacks the standing to even bring the suit because they only own a partial minority share of the copyright.
So basically saying, you don't own enough of this song to even sue me over it.
Exactly. And when we look at the raw music theory, setting the emotional narrative aside, Miley's legal defense is incredibly strong.
Because of the math.
Yes, music is math, and the math of these 2 songs is fundamentally different. Let's break down the actual architecture.
Let's do it.
Flowers is an upbeat, disco-tinged track sitting at a brisk 110 beats per minute. The chord progression driving the verse is A minor 7 to C major to G major to C major 7 flat 5.
Okay, 118 BPM, moving, grooving, very danceable.
Now look at When I Was Your Man. It is a somber piano ballad dragging along at a much slower 73 beats per minute.
Way slower.
Its verse chord progression goes A minor, C major, D minor, G major.
Okay, so the chords are the same.
Besides the fact that both songs happen to start on an A minor chord, which is literally one of the most common starting chords in the entire history of sad pop music, The underlying sheet music simply does not match. They are constructed with entirely different musical blocks.
Okay, I hear you saying the math is different, but I know you listeners right now are thinking of that viral TikTok mashup.
The mashup.
Because people will take the vocal track of Flowers and lay it perfectly over the piano of When I Was Your Man. There's that incredible viral version by Pomplamoose featuring Sarah Niemietz and Moira Mack.
It is a great mashup.
It is. And when you hear them mashed up, they sound flawless together. How can you look a jury in the eye and say those are fundamentally different math equations when my ears are telling me they fit together perfectly?
It's an excellent question, and it's exactly why copyright cases are so difficult for juries. Mashups trick the brain. What that mashup proves is that the songs are in the same key, or more likely, can be digitally pitch shifted to the same key, and that they share a complementary emotional frequency.
So they match emotionally.
Yes, but mashup culture can be highly deceptive regarding musical structure. You can mash up songs that have absolutely zero relation to each other, both legally and musically.
Like what?
The internet is full of mashups combining the aggressive heavy metal of Slipknot with the soulful pop of Gnarls Barkley, and they sound incredible together.
That's true, I've heard those. They sound amazing.
But that's because the producers manipulate the tempo and pitch to violently force them to align. Matching vibes does not equal matching sheet music.
That distinction is critical. The vibe is the emotional paint on the walls, but the sheet music is the actual architectural blueprint of the house.
Precisely.
So let's actually go inside the studio and look at that blueprint. Let's look at the sonic architecture of Flowers, because the production secrets on this track are mind-blowing. It really is a blueprint of resilience.
It's a masterfully produced song.
So what does this all mean when you're staring at a massive mixing board? How do you engineer the concept of empowerment using cables and software?
You engineer it through the meticulous control of tension and release, and through very specific instrumental choices that subconsciously trigger emotional responses.
Okay, set the scene for us. Who was at the board?
The masterminds behind the board for Flowers were producers Kid Harpoon and Tyler Johnson.
Huge names.
Massive. These are the same producers who largely define the modern pop sound with their work on Harry Styles' recent, massively successful albums. They deeply understand how to bridge the gap between vintage, organic warmth and modern, aggressive pop punch.
I love geeking out over how a song evolves because Flowers did not start out as this funky, strutting disco track, did it?
No, it began its life as a slow, stripped-down, sad ballad.
Which makes sense given the subject matter.
Right. But when they got to Sunset Sound Recorders in Los Angeles, which is a legendary studio where so much music history has been made, the song started to morph.
And how do they build that intro?
In the verse, they use this brilliantly minimalist approach. You've got an electric piano, a heavily muted bass line, and absolutely zero drums.
None.
No beat at all. It just builds this tight, coiled tension until the chorus finally hits.
That absence of drums is a classic psychological trick in audio engineering.
It is. By withholding the rhythmic pulse, it forces the listener to lean in, waiting for the release. And the way they built that groove once it does hit is fascinating.
Tell me about the bass.
Initially, during the writing and arranging phase, they used a digital software plugin called Trillium as a placeholder for the bass. Exactly. It's a great piece of software, but to get that authentic, gritty 1970s funk feel, they eventually recorded a live bass player. And critically, the bassist used a guitar pick rather than plucking with their fingers.
Oh, that makes a huge difference.
It gives the notes a sharp, percussive attack that cuts right through the mix.
The texture on that bass is so good. But the trick they used on the drums in the first half of the chorus is pure studio wizardry.
The sidechain gate.
Yes. They used a technique called a sidechain gate. To explain this simply to you listening, imagine a bouncer at an exclusive club. The bouncer is only allowed to open the door when a very specific hidden light flashes.
That's a great analogy.
In the studio, they set up a muted track that you, the listener, can't even hear. Then they told the drum track, you are the bouncer. You are only allowed to make a sound for the exact millisecond this invisible muted track tells you to.
The result of that sidechain gating is this incredibly choppy, tight staccato drum beat that sounds hyper-controlled.
So controlled.
The drum isn't ringing out, it's being choked off exactly when the producers demand it. It perfectly mirrors the lyrical theme of the song Miley, regaining tight, uncompromising control over her own life and boundaries.
It's literally an auditory manifestation of emotional discipline. I love that. And to contrast that tight, modern rhythm They washed the rest of the track in lush 1970s analog warmth.
You really did.
They utilized a digital patch called Contact Session Strings Pro to get that sweeping orchestral sound. But a clean digital patch sounds too perfect, right? Too sterile.
Yeah, you don't want it to sound like a computer.
So to make it sound authentically vintage, they ran it in mic mode through a simulation of a Neve-style preamp. Now, a preamp amplifies the signal, but if you push it too hard, it distorts.
Which can sound terrible if you aren't careful.
Right. So they applied a negative 20 decibel pad to tame the volume. This allowed them to drive the preamp incredibly hard and achieve this beautiful, heavy, warm saturation without blowing out the speakers.
They essentially added highly controlled digital dirt to make a computer program sound like a human orchestra playing in a room in 1978.
Digital dirt, I love that. And then they squashed it with OTT compression and ran it through a simulation of an EMT 140 plate reverb.
Which is wild when you think about what a plate reverb actually is.
It's literally a massive suspended sheet of metal that vibrates to create a metallic echo. It gives the strings this classic sweeping 70s room tail.
It's a brilliant engineering choice.
And all of this intense labor, the side chaining, the Neve preamps, the plate reverbs, was specifically designed to subconsciously remind your brain of the greatest survival anthem of all time.
You're referring, of course, to Gloria Gaynor's 1978 disco masterpiece, I Will Survive.
Of course.
The connection between Flowers and I Will Survive goes far beyond just the thematic message of surviving a brutal breakup. Flowers shares the exact same underlying chord progression, A minor, D minor, G, C, as Gloria Gaynor's anthem.
Yeah.
Kid Harpoon and Tyler Johnson purposely embedded the musical DNA of disco's greatest survivor directly into Miley Cyrus's track.
It's like secretly weaving Kevlar into a silk dress. You can't see the armor, but it's there.
That's beautifully put.
And the legacy of I Will Survive proves how a genuinely great resilience anthem takes on a life entirely its own, completely separate from its original context. Did you know there was a 1979 country western cover of I Will Survive by Billy Joe Spears?
I had no idea.
Yeah. It was produced by Larry Butler at the Jack Clement recording studio in Nashville. It proves that the feeling of surviving heartbreak isn't just for the disco floor in New York. It translates perfectly to a steel guitar and a smoky.
Or a football stadium.
Wait, a football stadium?
Yes. The most fascinating mutation of I Will Survive happened in 1998. A Dutch pop group called the Hermes House Band released a wildly energetic, almost chaotic remix of the track.
Okay.
During the 1998 FIFA World Cup, France men's national football team adopted that specific remix as their unofficial locker room anthem.
Really? A breakup song?
Yes. The team rode the momentum and energy of that song all the way to winning the World Cup. The instrumental sub-theme, where the crowd just chants la la la, became the soundtrack of a massive national victory.
That is insane.
Think about that trajectory. A song written about a woman surviving a bad breakup fueled a team of elite athletes to global sports supremacy.
That is the power of a master narrative. When an artist crafts a narrative strong enough, people will project their own victories, their own struggles onto it.
Absolutely.
But taking control of that narrative isn't just about writing a good song. It's about actively managing your public persona. Which brings us to how artists control their identity and rebrand themselves.
Because Miley definitely did that here.
Oh, big time. Flowers wasn't just a hit song. It was the launch pad for the New Year, New Miley rebrand. She aggressively pivoted from her gritty, leather-clad, rock and roll Plastic Hearts era into the sleek, sun-drenched, high-fashion, endless summer vacation era.
A total shift.
But this raises a tough question I want to ask you. When an artist does this, when they completely wipe their past, does it alienate the old fans who love that gritty version of them? Or is a scorched earth rebrand the only way to genuinely prove to the world that you've grown?
It is a profound risk, but in the modern attention economy, where consumers are bombarded with thousands of narratives a day, it is often a necessity.
You have to cut through the noise.
You have to create a bold demarcation line. Miley's strategy here shares a tremendous amount of DNA with how Taylor Swift operates.
Oh, the queen of the era.
Taylor is a master of creating blank space in a crowded market. Think back to 2017, leading up to her Reputation album. She completely wiped her social media history across all platforms and declared, "The old Taylor is dead."
I remember that it broke the internet.
It was shocking, but it was highly effective. It forced the media to stop talking about her past controversies and only focus on the new narrative she was aggressively presenting.
Taylor also utilizes this incredible gamification with her audience to keep them engaged during these shifts. She drops hidden messages in music videos, leaves cryptic social media clues, completely capitalizing on that detective instinct we talked about earlier with Miley's fans.
She trains her audience to look for clues.
Marketing professors at universities literally study her connection with the Swifties as the ultimate example of customer relationship management, or CRM. She nurtures them so deeply that when she rebrands, they don't abandon her. They follow her into the new era as active participants.
They feel ownership of the process.
And Miley's lyrical self-empowerment on Flowers feels very aligned with Taylor's literal business empowerment in re-recording her albums to own her masters.
And the conversation around owning your master recordings and thereby owning the literal rights to your narrative identity inevitably leads back to Prince,
the pioneer of this.
Long before the modern pop landscape, Prince fought one of the most highly publicized battles against his record label for independence. He famously wrote the word slave on his cheek during public appearances to protest how labels retained ownership of an artist's life work.
Such a powerful image.
He went so far as to change his name to an unpronounceable symbol just to break his contractual obligations, eventually releasing the aptly titled album Emancipation.
I remember reading an incredible interview with his sister, Taken Nelson. She admitted it took her years to realize the absolute genius of what he was doing. She was going through his massive vault of unreleased music after he passed, and she realized he wasn't just being difficult or eccentric. He was actively paving the way for artists like Taylor Swift to fight for their rights decades later.
He saw the future of the industry.
He understood implicitly that if you don't control the business of your art, you don't actually control the art itself.
Prince also understood the necessity of separate identities to explore different facets of his art without alienating his core audience.
Right. He had so many sounds.
He created an alter ego named Camille. Camille was a pitched-up, androgynous vocal character that allowed Prince to playfully toy with conventions of gender and sexuality.
Oh, I've heard those tracks, they're wild.
Interestingly, the creation of Camille originated from a complete technical mistake.
Wait, really?
Yes. His brilliant engineer, Susan Rogers, accidentally left a distortion and pitch effect on his vocals during the recording of If I Was Your Girlfriend. She was terrified he was going to be furious, but Prince heard it, loved the pitched-up effect, and built an entire distinct persona around it.
That is amazing. That need for distinct personas is still a huge issue today, maybe even more so because of streaming. I was reading a fascinating thread on a forum for music makers discussing this exact struggle. A producer was talking about how hard it is to release Audioslave-style, heavy, aggressive hard rock on the exact same Spotify profile as their soft, ethereal dream pop tracks.
The algorithms hate that.
The streaming algorithms get totally confused, and the human listeners get emotional whiplash.
Yeah.
You literally have to create separate identities or distinct eras like Miley, so the audience knows exactly what emotional space they are stepping into before they hit play.
Which highlights a critical psychological point audiences crave context. They want to know the backstory, the lore, the identity of the person singing. Miley's Flowers is deeply, famously contextual.
Oh, the most contextual.
You know exactly who she is, you know about her house burning down, and you have a very good idea of who she is singing about. It is highly specific and fully illuminated.
But we've been talking entirely about artists who use hyper-specific, highly publicized lore to control their narrative. What happens if you try to control the narrative by doing the exact opposite?
By withholding it all.
Exactly. What if you refuse to give the audience any lore at all? If Miley is an open book, some songs are a locked diary where we don't even know what language it's written in.
That's a great analogy.
Let's talk about the incredible power of withholding information. And to do that, we have to look at Seal's monumental 1994 hit, Kiss from a Rose.
Kiss from a Rose is the ultimate antithesis to the modern, hyper-explained pop song. This raises an important question. Does knowing the true, literal meaning behind a song ruin the magic of the listener's personal interpretation?
With Seal, we will literally never know, because he refuses to tell us.
He is incredibly guarded about it.
The origin story of this song is wild. He wrote it in a miserable, freezing London squat in the late 1980s. He was just trying to figure out how to use a basic 4-track tape recorder.
Just experimenting?
Yeah, this was around the time he was singing with a band called Push in the London rare groove scene. He recorded this rough demo and literally tossed the tape in a corner because he thought it was complete garbage.
It wasn't until years later that legendary producer Trevor Horn heard the demo and realized its immense potential.
Trevor Horn is a genius.
Horn is a visionary, but he's also a perfectionist, and he subjected Seal to grueling recording sessions. Horn envisioned the song featuring an intricate 8-part vocal harmony.
8 parts.
This required Seal to sing every single part perfectly, layered on top of each other, in an era before digital pitch correction or auto-tune made that easy. It was an arduous, deeply frustrating process.
And the lyrics that came out of that process are completely impenetrable. To this day, 3 decades later, there is a massive, unresolved debate about the main hook of the song.
Ah, the famous lyric debate.
Yes. Is Seal singing Kiss from a Rose on the Grey, or is he singing Kiss from a Rose on the Grave? If it's gray, what does that even mean? A graze guy? A gray building? Nobody knows. If it's grave, is it a morbid song about death and addiction? People have theorized it's about everything from a severe cocaine addiction to the tragic death of a fictional wife.
And Seal explicitly refuses to answer the question.
He won't budge.
In the liner notes of his greatest hits album, he finally addressed it, stating that the listener's perception of what he is saying is far more important than his literal translation.
Oh, interesting.
He argues that the song becomes larger in the listener's mind precisely because they attach their own autobiographical imagery to it. By maintaining strict ambiguity, he allows the song to be universally applicable to whoever is listening.
And musically, the song is just as weird and mysterious as the lyrics. It plays with time signatures in a way pop songs almost never do.
It really breaks the rules.
In the verse, he extends certain bars to 98 times, which is basically 3 groups of 3 beats. It makes the rhythm feel like it's dragging and rushing at the exact same time. It keeps you entirely off balance.
It's very disorienting.
And then, out of nowhere, it drops into this completely unexpected F major bridge. It's incredibly beautiful, but it defies all standard pop radio logic.
Which perfectly explains why it initially failed.
It failed.
When it was released in 1994, it bombed. It peaked at a dismal number 20 in the UK, and didn't even dent the charts in America. It was too strange, too ambiguous.
I had no idea it was a flop at first.
It was only resurrected because director Joel Schumacher fell in love with the track and placed it over the end credits of the 1995 blockbuster Batman Forever.
Oh my gosh, yes, the Batman Association.
The massive, inescapable exposure of the film forced people to listen to it repeatedly, and the inherent mystery of the song finally hooked them.
That power of anonymity of withholding yourself is such a sharp tool. Look at The Weeknd. In 2011, he uploaded his debut mixtape, House of Balloons, to YouTube. He didn't show his face, nobody knew who he was or where he came from.
A total ghost.
He was literally working at an American Apparel store, folding clothes, and he could hear his own music playing over the store speakers, and nobody around him knew it was him.
That's incredible.
Or think about Sia, who hid her face behind those massive platinum blonde wigs for years. She claimed it was for personal privacy, but it actually heightened the live experience because it removed the visual distraction of celebrity and forced the audience to focus entirely on the voice and the raw emotion.
Whether an artist uses hyper-specific, gossip-fueled lore like Miley Cyrus, or complete impenetrable anonymity like The Weeknd, the ultimate goal is the exact same.
Which is what?
To create a hook that burrows so deeply into the human brain that it cannot be removed. And to truly understand why certain hooks work so well, we have to look beneath the music theory, beneath the legal battles, and beneath the marketing.
The underlying biology.
We have to examine the actual neuroscience of memory and the evolutionary biology of emotion.
Okay, here we go. We are descending to the absolute deepest level of the deep dive. Prepare yourselves for the quirky science facts. But I really have to ask you, when we look at the raw biology of this, are we really just sophisticated animals doing a mating dance when we spend months in the studio writing a platinum pop song?
In many fundamental ways, yes. The biological imperatives driving the creation of art are profound. Let's start with how music interacts with the physical brain.
Leo.
Dr. Kelly Jakubowski has conducted extensive research on how music acts as a uniquely powerful cue for autobiographical memory. Her studies show that music can transport us back to highly specific moments in our past far more effectively than other stimuli, like sights or even smells.
Why is that?
This phenomenon is heavily influenced by what psychologists call the valence of the cue, whether the emotion attached to the song is intensely positive or intensely negative.
Which perfectly explains why a song tied to a terrible breakup or an amazing summer romance instantly and physically affects you when it comes on the radio. Your heart rate actually changes.
Yes, your body reacts.
But it's not just monumental emotional events. Our brains hold on to the weirdest, most seemingly useless things. I read this fascinating breakdown from a source called Psychology Simplified. They pointed out that your brain is not a neat filing cabinet, and it is definitely not a computer hard drive optimizing for storage.
Far from it.
We remember completely random facts. Like, did you know that a single day on the planet Venus is actually longer than an entire year on Venus?
Yeah.
Or that a shrimp's heart is located in its head?
From a purely survival standpoint, knowing the orbital mechanics of Venus provides absolutely zero evolutionary advantage.
Not at all.
But the human brain collects these oddities anyway. The psychological theory is that these random facts are like beautiful stones you pick up on a walk. You don't need them for shelter or food, but they caught the light.
I love that image, beautiful stones.
Our brains are biologically designed to seek out patterns, novelty, and beauty. A great pop hook operates on the exact same frequency. It is an auditory, beautiful stone that the brain pockets and refuses to let go of.
But why are our brains wired to appreciate beauty and novelty in the first place? Why do we care if a stone is beautiful? This is where the evolutionary psychology comes in. Now, we are going to look at some biological observations regarding animal behavior, specifically referencing the work of Jordan Peterson. We are looking strictly at the biological mechanisms of evolution he details here. He talks about this incredible creature called the male bowerbird.
The bowerbird is a phenomenal example of evolutionary courtship displays in action.
Impartially speaking, what does this bird do?
The male bowerbird spends immense amounts of time and energy weaving a highly complex structural nest on the forest floor. But he doesn't stop at mere construction, he decorates it.
He decorates a nest.
He will scour the forest for very specific colored objects, a carefully curated collection of vibrant red leaves, or a pile of bright blue berries, or even discarded blue plastic bottle caps. He arranges them to create what is essentially an intentional piece of abstract art in his front yard.
Wait, so a male bird is literally an interior designer trying to impress a date?
Essentially, yes. The female bowerbirds fly by, critically inspect the art installation, and decide if they want to mate based purely on his aesthetic choices and the effort displayed.
That is wild.
And if 3 females in a row reject his setup, he throws a tantrum, physically destroys the entire nest with his wings, and starts completely over from scratch.
That is painfully relatable. But what is the biological?
Peterson uses this to illustrate a broader evolutionary thesis. Nature is that way. In many species, including early hominids, female selection has been a primary driver of evolution.
Because they choose the mates.
By actively selecting mates who display creativity, intelligence, and the ability to dedicate vast resources to non-survival tasks like arranging blueberries or writing a song, female selection actively push the evolution of human intelligence and creativity forward.
It's a resource-heavy display of fitness. It's proving you have so much energy, you can afford to waste it on art.
Precisely.
And you see these wild courtship displays all over the animal kingdom. Male mannequin birds will literally approach a female in pairs and perform a highly choreographed, synchronized dance routine.
Like a boy band.
Exactly, the crazy part. Only the alpha gets to mate. The beta bird is just there acting as a wingman to learn the dance moves so he can use them later when he finally becomes an alpha.
Or consider the hen harriers, birds of prey that perform terrifying, daredevil free falls from the sky just to prove their physical prowess to a watching female. Scorpions engage in a complex, dangerous tango. Male kingfishers attempt to prove their fitness by offering a freshly caught fish. The nursery web spider wraps a dead insect in silk as a gift.
Okay, giving a silk-wrapped dead bug is a choice. But why do the males have to do all this? Because the female's biological instinct is to conserve resources for reproduction. The biological cost of pregnancy means males must prove resource wealth through useless, beautiful displays.
That's the evolutionary theory.
If the male spider doesn't offer a massive caloric bribe, he isn't just rejected, he might be eaten. The biological cost is life or death. The underlying biological theory here is that males across species possess a drive to disperse their DNA widely. Therefore, the male usually has to make the massive, resource-heavy first move.
And in human terms.
So when a human artist spends 2 years and $3 million producing a pop album, it's the human equivalent of that silk-wrapped insect or the bowerbird's nest, an overwhelming display of excess resources to prove biological fitness.
Music and art, in evolutionary terms, are the ultimate resource-heavy displays. They signal to potential mates, I am so fit, so intelligent, and so resource-rich that I can afford to spend thousands of hours mastering this instrument and writing these lyrics rather than just foraging for food.
It's a flex, a massive biological flex.
But it's also vital to note that music transcends mere biological mating drives. Music has capacity to unify disparate groups.
Can you give an example?
For example, impartially noting a deeply moving event, there was a time where Palestinian and Israeli youth came together to perform a special rendition of Andy Grammer's song, Don't Give Up on Me. In that context, the music bypassed evolutionary competition entirely and acted as a mechanism for profound social healing and unity.
Music holds so much power, and the people who create the greatest music often have incredibly complex psychologies shaped by their childhoods. A study comparing Mozart and Michael Jackson highlighted how both experienced intense childhood pressure and abuse from their demanding fathers.
The child prodigy syndrome.
That extreme pressure permanently altered how they perceived the world, their own self-worth, and their relationship with the public. They poured that intense psychological complexity into their art, creating music that moved the entire globe, even as they struggled personally.
Which brings our vast exploration of memory, copyright law, and evolutionary biology full circle, right back to the architecture of a modern pop song.
Here's where it gets really interesting, and how all of this ties back to Miley Cyrus and the structure.
If we accept the evolutionary premise that music is the ultimate human courtship display, a complex signal designed to win affection, prove fitness, or mourn the loss of a mate, much like Bruno Mars did with his plea in When I Was Your Man, then what Miley Cyrus achieved with Flowers is nothing short of evolutionary genius.
She completely hacked the biological system. She took a song that was originally written as a courtship display directed toward a partner, she stripped it down for parts, and she built a massive gleaming monument entirely to herself.
Precisely. She bypassed the biological imperative that requires a partner to validate the display. She explicitly stated that she does not need the kingfisher's fish or the bowerbird's nest.
Wow.
She can buy her own gifts. She can hold her own hand. She utilized the semiotics of a flower, the studio mastery of the 1970s analog sound, and the viral power of modern lore to fundamentally rewrite the biological script of the breakup anthem.
She took a sledgehammer to the drywall of the traditional love song, rewired the entire building, and painted it gold. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. The next time you are driving in your car or walking through a grocery store and you hear a massive, soaring pop anthem, come on the radio stop and ask yourself, who is the artist really singing to?
A great question.
Are they desperately trying to win back an ex through a biological courtship display? Are they coldly manipulating a media narrative to sell records and redefine their era? Or are they actually just singing a desperate, beautiful survival anthem directly to themselves in the mirror?